I'm sharing my testimony, how I found Jesus. I just want to say this might be harsh topics for some of you. I just want to warn you guys before I jump into it because it does get a little crazy. Alright, so I grew up in a small town in Louisiana. Very small, people know everything. I grew up with my mom and dad together and I had 4 siblings. I was the youngest until my mom had my little brother, which he is now 10, so I was the youngest for a while. I wasn't really that close to my family. I feel like I was always kind of left out, whatever. I was raised kind of Catholic, but we never really attended church or was into it at all, so I didn't really know what it was. I was forced to go to religion classes, but I did not pay attention. I would sit on my phone the whole time and mess around. I was fine until I got to middle school. I was at this really bad middle school, and I feel like everyone I was around was already drinking, having sex, doing things that 13-year-olds should not do. And I got into the wrong friend group. I started rebelling, I started sneaking out, I started sneaking people in, and I didn't really know better. I was just like, oh, this is fun. I don't know, I was just very rebellious. I guess because I didn't have a close relationship with anyone and I just wanted attention. I don't know. I made a lot of mistakes. I messed with a lot of boys and thought it was cool. Fast forward to high school, nobody really liked me. Everyone said I was rude or mean or a hoe, just called me mean things, and then it kind of like spread around, so that's just what everyone thought about me no matter what I did. But I will admit I was also like very attention seeking. Like I always wanted a boyfriend. I always would post things to get attention. My relationship with my dad wasn't good. My mom and my dad were actually very toxic together. They were always arguing and screaming. We had cops always at our house. We always had something going on with them too, and they stayed together for us, but it actually ended up hurting us in the long run. So I didn't really talk to my dad. We never talked, we never hugged, we never had conversations. He was just there, but he wasn't there, if you know what I mean. He also had struggles with addiction and other things where it would just be big fights. When I was like 7 years old, he also told me he saw the devil behind me and slept in my room the whole night because he said it was the only spot he felt protected in. And then for like my sister's graduation, we had to drop him off at the hospital because he was going insane, screaming, "Take me to church," and like just big episodes like that where it was so traumatizing as a little girl seeing your dad like just go insane. When I was around 17, I had a TikTok and I would post dances with me or my friends. Most of the views were creepy online predators and they would DM me and manipulate me to do things for money. Back then I didn't have money and I couldn't go shopping and I couldn't get things that I wanted, so I would fall into it. So at 16 to 17, I started sending things online to older men for money. And after you would do it one time, then they would use that against you to get you to do it again and say they would post it or leak it or do this with it if you don't keep going. So it was kind of this cycle that never ended, and then they would send it to the other ones that they had and sell it to them and then get them to text me and be like, well, I have this of you now, so if you don't do this. It was like it was very evil. That's the best way I can put it. I fell into it because guys from my hometown were already doing the same thing, but without sending money. They would just beg you to send them things when we were in middle school and high school, and then threaten to block you or do something to you if you didn't. Like, that's just the kind of guys we had around us. I thought that's all I was good for, and I was doing it. And then whenever I turned 18, I went and bought myself a car because I had a boyfriend at the time that was moving away 2 hours away, and I wanted to go visit him, but I had an old 2002 and no AC. It was horrible. So I was like, I'm gonna go try and see if I can get a deal. Well, no one wanted to come to the dealership with me, so I went by myself. Basically got scammed. They were like, oh, this is such a great deal, 24% interest rate, and I didn't even know what it was. My dad wouldn't come with me because he would get talked into co-signing. None of my family members would even come with me. I had no credit, just turned 18, had no idea what I was doing, and they took advantage of me. So that is how I started to get behind basically on all things money wise. Me and my mom actually got into a big fight after that about insurance and her renewal fee. I think she wanted me to put in for it, but I didn't have enough, and it was a big blowout, and then she kicked me out. I packed all my bags and I drove to my boyfriend's house 2 hours away, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here for a little while until I figure it out. Well, obviously, I didn't want to go back there because I just got kicked out. So I start looking for jobs. I'm like, what do I do? Well, the roommate of the boyfriend was deciding that I couldn't stay there unless I put in for rent. Mind you, I just got kicked out, and I had no job. So I told him, I can't put in for rent yet. Like, I can't. I don't even have a room here. I was staying in the other half of that boyfriend's room. And they wanted me to pay rent. So I was like, I can't. And he was like, all right, then I'm leaving and you can take my spot on the lease. So that guy moves out. At this point, I'm like, okay, I'm stuck here. So I get a job at the first thing I can find, which was a Hooters. And if you know anything about Hooters, it's another male validation job, in my opinion. So I'm over there all the time. People are telling me, you should start an OnlyFans. You should start an OnlyFans. Like, you would make so much money. Because I would tell them about, like, you know, I really can't, like, afford anything. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they'd be like, do it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I started one. I did not want to do it. I hated it. But in my head, I was like, I have to survive out here. I just bought a car. I have no way of paying this rent. And also, every single weekend, there would be a game at the college town we were at, and my car would get a boot on it because I didn't have a parking pass yet. So every weekend, I was getting $200 charges for like a month straight. And I was so stressed out. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I started it. And I felt so sick every time I did it. It's like something in me just knew, like, that's not what I was supposed to be doing. It was wrong. It was gross. And I remember one guy even asked me, one guy had a kink. This is going to sound crazy. And this might be a trigger. One guy had a kink for ending your life. And he told me to act like I was so he can get off to it. Another guy wanted me to urinate on camera. A lot of demonic things that I was like, I don't want to do this. I didn't know what else to do, and then eventually someone from my hometown found it, bought it, screen recorded it, posted it everywhere. The whole Snapchat radius of my hometown has seen the screen recording. So I'm like, great. So I can never go back there again. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is like so horrible. And I was like, I should just actually end my life. And I was really thinking about it and forgot to mention the guy I was living with, the boyfriend, toxic. He was cheating on me. He was yelling at me. He wouldn't bring me food when I was starving at work, working a double. Like, he was just a horrible, narcissistic little boy, okay? If he sees this, he's going to be like, I never cheated on her, but you were watching porn in the bathroom almost every night when I was asleep. To me, that's cheating. And I told you, I felt like that was cheating, and you still did it. And he also couldn't stop smoking. I told him I didn't want to be around it. He couldn't stop. Tried to get me to do it with him. Told me I can leave if I didn't like it. The boyfriend's toxic. I'm by myself. I'm alone. I'm lonely. I decide I'm going to go to the pet store and get a pet. I was losing my mind. I go to the pet store. I get a guinea pig. I'm like, oh, so cute. I do research. Oh, apparently they need a big family. I ended up, over the course of 3 weeks, 7 guinea pigs. Yeah. Your girl was going crazy. So I had a whole farm upstairs. But then I was like, you know, now I really can't leave. Like, my parents would never allow these guinea pigs back in their home. And I really loved them. I really did. Well, at the job I was working at Hooters, it was so horrible. The managers were so mean to me. They would call me stupid. They would yell at me if I asked a question. They would embarrass you. You had to lock up your phone whenever you got there, and then you couldn't get it back until you left. They made you declare that you were making more tips than you were actually making so that they didn't have to reimburse you if you didn't make enough because it was so slow. It was an insane job. I hated it. I was so miserable. So eventually I was like, you know what? I really can't do this anymore. So there was one night on the bathroom floor and I was crying my eyes out. And I was like, I'm so stressed. I have no options here. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? And I had remembered my friend from a few years ago actually talking about God and stuff and Jesus. And I was like, it came into my mind and I was like, I'm going to try. So I prayed. For the first time, really, ever, like really in prayer. And I asked him to come into my life and I surrendered it all to him basically. And I was like, if you're out there, please help me because I'm on my last straw. Like, I don't know what I can do anymore. As soon as I finished that prayer, guys, I felt this like rush of peace. And it was crazy. I've never felt anything like it. I felt like my skin didn't feel dirty anymore, which doesn't make sense, but I felt clean and I felt redeemed and I felt heard. And I just heard like, it'll be okay. Like, I have you. It'll be okay. I started listening to worship and I was playing it. And the boy I was living with hated it. He got so annoyed every time I had worship on. I was like, all right, I think God's calling me to leave this place. I felt it, and it kept getting stronger and stronger, and eventually I told the guy, I was like, I need to go home. And my mom, thankfully, had told me I could always go back if I ever needed. So I called her and I asked, like, is it okay if I bring all these pets to your house? And she was like, yeah. So I moved back home with no job, all of these pets by myself, nothing, no help really, because my mom and them, they still weren't helping me, and I didn't know what to do. So I started looking for jobs, and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, and I actually started to get the thought to talk about what just happened and how I found Jesus and like make an account, talk about it. But I was like, no. And I think I actually made an account, posted a few videos. One of them blew up and I got so scared and I deleted the whole account. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I got a job, lasted there a month, got fired, lost my crap. I was like, what is going on? God, why would you give me this job and then let me lose it? I was so mad. I didn't understand that he gives things and takes things away on purpose. Like, I didn't know that yet. And then I kind of like ignored God for a little bit. And then the last day before I got my new job, I remember crying and I wrote him this big long letter. I was like, God, please help me get a job. And even though he probably didn't want me to get one and he wanted me to do this, he gave me the job the next morning. I got a call. My parents started fighting again, and it was really, really toxic. And I was around it all the time. And I asked my mom, I was like, what do you think you should do? And she said, I think I should leave. Like, he's done this and this and this. And I was like, okay. So she ends up divorcing him. She leaves me there. I'm stuck with my dad. Now, mind you, my dad relapses, and he goes crazy. He's having these episodes, and he's yelling at me, and he's putting all his stress and all his anger towards my mom on me. So I was like in this deep, deep thing of like just stressed and like I needed to get out of there. I felt like I was going crazy. I kept having to go to court for my little brother. He kept yelling at me every time I would show up to court and not like take his side. It was this horrible thing. He would play loud rap music in the house and just yell all the time. I would be at work for 6 a.m. every single morning and didn't get off till like 5 or 5:30. And by the time I got home, I would want to go home and just relax. And I couldn't go home and just rest because I would procrastinate in my car on getting out the car because I knew once I walked inside, that's what I had to deal with. And every time I would walk in, my dad would make jokes and comments of like, where's dinner? Like, what are you doing? Like, just kind of sexist comments, and even like treating me like I was his wife because his wife left him and I was the only woman in the house while he was going through all of this. And he was just so horrible to me. I would cry every night. I would have mental breakdowns every night. I never wanted to be at my house. They didn't clean, so I had to clean. I had to cook. I had to do everything that my mom was once doing while working every day, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I felt like I was having a family, and I was raising my dad and my older brother. Like, what is going on? Nobody cleaned anything. It was dirty. It was horrible. And then I had 7 guinea pigs on top of that I'm having to take care of every single day. And it was like, I'm also taking care of my dad, and now I'm taking care of 7 pets and my little brother because my dad would disappear and go do drugs and go sell them, and I was just by myself. And speaking of the guinea pigs, I had this like trauma bond with them because I was with them when I was in the other town, and I did not want to get rid of them. I loved them, but my dad, once my mom moved out and she wasn't there to like take up for me, take up for my pets, he demanded that I got rid of them. He even threatened to throw them in the dumpster if I didn't get them out by a certain time. He also wanted me to start paying $700 a month to live in the home that I grew up in while I didn't have it all figured out. I just moved back home. I barely even had a job, still late on my car note from what happened, and he was demanding for me to pay rent. So I was like, why would I stay here and pay $700 in this horrible environment when I could go get a place? I got into a relationship. He was leading me towards sin. It was also it was very toxic, I'm not gonna lie. He was leading me towards sin, but I was just so stressed out, and I thought that we were in love, and he helped me to get actually this apartment that I'm in right now. But we moved out of my mom's because of my dad, and he was trying to help, and that's why we moved here. I told myself I would never live with a guy again, but I felt like I had no choice because I couldn't move by myself, and no one I knew wanted a roommate. When I was living in that other town, I wanted to unalive myself. When I was living with my dad, I wanted to unalive myself. And then when I got in this relationship, I also wanted to, because I just felt like I couldn't get a break. I was stuck in survival mode for so long. I was so stressed out. I felt like I could never get away from it. I don't know what it was. If like the enemy was just purposely attacking me because he knew what God wanted me to do. And this purpose I had. But every single person that was in my life, it's like they didn't care about me. They didn't care at all. They were narcissistic. And I even told the last relationship, when I was actually here, I was having a mental breakdown, and I was saying like I wanted to give up, and he didn't even care. One time where he wasn't home, and I texted him, I said, I think I'm about to give up. Took him 45 minutes to come check on me. Like, it was so bad. There's holes in the wall. I got slammed into the window. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to call him out, but it is true, and it's part of my testimony. So I made him leave. We ended up breaking up, and then I lost that job. And then I started to go into this deep episode of prayer, and I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to lock in and pray every day about what's going on. And I kept hearing God tell me to speak, and I didn't know about what. And this was in September of 2025 that I kept hearing, speak, speak, speak. You need to talk, you need to talk. I started to speak, and then I think people I knew started to find out about it, and of course talking about me, saying I was faking it, whatever. And then someone from my past, I don't know who, started to blackmail me. Pretty sure it was one of the older guys that I used to message. I don't know, but somehow they got my dad's phone number. They DM'd a whole bunch of my friends, a whole bunch of my family members, old pictures of me from when I was a minor, and basically demanding that I would talk to them and send them things again. The whole blackmail situation, posting it on the dark web, leaking my phone number. They leaked my old dad's address. They leaked where I used to work. So thank you, Jesus, that I don't work there anymore and that I don't live with my dad, because that all has been leaked. So at this point, again, losing my mind, trying to trust God. I'm like praying about all of this, and I kept seeing scripture about how like God will get revengeance and just trust him. So I started to trust him. I let all of it go, and that was around the time where I made that video of letting everything go and like God will bless you through that. And it's definitely true, because after I let everything go and I just gave it all up to God, and I was like, you know what, my life has been a mess. I feel like a mess. I don't know how you're going to ever use me. I don't know what you want me to even talk about. I know that I've learned a lot through reading your word, but I don't think I'm ready for this. I think I still have so many issues. But it was the people I had surrounding me that was actually making like my life harder. It wasn't that I was a bad person. I wasn't. It's that I kept putting myself in these situations and then not leaving right when God told me to. And it's like, yes, I should have known better, but it was also spiritual warfare, of course. So I started to take authority. I started to pray every morning. I started to put on the armor of God. I started to heal, and then I started to speak, and then all that stuff with the blackmail happened. It didn't even bother me. I knew it was out there. I knew that my family members were getting sent that. Didn't bother me. I left it up to God. I was like, there's nothing I can do about that. I'm never going back to that. And I just prayed about it, and I haven't heard anything about that since. I did report it to the FBI. I reported it to the police. I did all of that. I was just working part-time for a little while at a small airport. I don't do it anymore because of some things that also happened there. Now I'm fully focusing on this completely. And by the grace of God, he has sent so many people into my life to bless me and help me and take care of me and actually like hear me for me and my heart, not for what my hometown says or whatever, and just be generous to me. Like the other day, I was going to the grocery store and I prayed and I was like, God, can you let me like park close, because I'm by myself. I don't want to get kidnapped. And I get the first parking spot. I get like the fastest checkout line. I get a worker come to my car to help put the groceries in. I've never seen that before. I was like, okay, like he's just making a way. He's making a way. He's sent so many good people into my life. Like my whole Discord community is filled with good Christians, good people who follow Jesus. They pray over me. I've made so many close friends. I have a close friend right now helping me out with everything I have going on. I'm finally caught up to my car note. I have no more late fees. Like I am finally good. And it's because I let all of that go and I gave it to God, and I just started doing whatever he wanted me to do. I didn't question him. I didn't say I was embarrassed from my hometown. No, I was like, you know what? Whatever it is you're calling me to do, I'm going to do it no matter what. And I trust that you're going to provide for me. And he has provided for me. The last month, actually the last 2 months have been the best 2 months of my life. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The best 2 months of my life. I've been so at peace. I've been so happy, and it's only getting better. I just decided I wanted to focus on this fully, and that was the best decision I've ever made. He set me up. He has gotten me help, and I am just so, 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 so grateful. And just know that it's never too late for you to turn your life around. Like, all you need to do is give it to Jesus. All you need to do is just lock in with him. Just follow him, pick up your cross every day, and give everything to him, and stop stressing. Stop putting yourself through that. My anxiety and my stress was so bad, I was ripping my hair out. I was twisting it so much to where big chunks would fall out. I had to get on anxiety medicine about 3-4 months ago. I don't do it anymore. I got off of the medicine because I realized all I need is Jesus Christ. Okay? That's all you need. That's all you need. He will heal you. He will redeem you. Like, that is why my hair is so short and I have to wear extensions, because I twisted it all out. Like, I twisted it out. That's how bad I was in the head. Like, I was mentally going through it, and yet here I am helping other people. And it's like, how did I get here? Only by the grace of God. That's it. Did I mention that? I was partying and drinking, getting drunk at school, after school, on the weekends, always. You can be all of that and still find God and have him turn your life around, because that's exactly what happened to me. And even though I grew up in a toxic household and I had 2 toxic relationships that made me want to, like, unalive myself, I'm still here and I'm happy only because of Jesus. And if that brings you hope, then you should try and just give him your life and surrender it all to him and watch him work, because I'm a whole different person. And people see my account and they're like, she's faking that. That's not even how she acts. Because I'm not the same person anymore. That's why I say you're a new creation in Christ. That's my favorite verse. 2 Corinthians 5:17. So, thank you for listening. I know this was a lot and probably very crazy, but I hope this brought you hope. I love you guys.